Kathy Miller lived alone on her small farm in Nebraska. The 28-year-old woman spent her days tending to her crops and animals. Her life was simple but lonely after her parents passed away last year, leaving her the 50 acres of land that had been in their family for 3 generations. Her daily routine rarely changed. She woke up at 5 in the morning, fed the chickens and 2 cows, then worked on whatever the season demanded. Summer meant long hours in the fields fighting against weeds and hoping for just enough rain. The nearest neighbor lived 2 miles down the dirt road and visitors were rare. Kathy liked the quiet most days, but sometimes the silence of the old farmhouse felt heavy, especially at night. One warm evening, in July, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Kathy sat on her porch swing with a glass of homemade lemonade. The crickets sang their nightly song and fireflies began to dance above her cornfields. She closed her eyes, enjoying the peaceful moment. A sudden bright flash followed by a rumbling noise made her eyes snap open. The sound was unlike anything she had ever heard before. Not like thunder or farm machinery, but something alien and strange. A streak of light cut across the darkening sky, heading straight toward her property. The object, whatever it was, crashed into her tomato garden with a thud that shook the ground. Kathy stood frozen for a moment, her heart racing. Was it a meteor? A piece of a satellite she had heard stories about space junk falling back to Earth. Curiosity overcame fear, and she grabbed her flashlight from the hook by the door. The beam cut through the growing darkness as she approached the crash site. What she found made her gasp and take a step back. It was not a meteor or satellite, but something that looked like a ship, about the size of her pickup truck. It was made of a material that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. A section of it was damaged with smoke rising from what looked like an engine. As Kathy stood there trying to make sense of what she was seeing, a portion of the ship slid open. A figure emerged, tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl in the moonlight. The being had 4 arms and large almond-shaped eyes that reflected the light like a cat's. No visible mouth or nose could be seen, but somehow the alien spoke, and even more strangely, Kathy understood her. My ship malfunctioned during our journey. I need help. My children are hungry. The alien moved with grace despite the obvious fatigue in her movements. She reached back into the ship and gently pulled out 3 small beings. They looked like smaller versions of their mother with the same pearlescent skin and large, reflective eyes. They huddled close to her, their tiny 4-fingered hands clutching at her clothes, which seemed to be made of the same color-shifting material as the ship. Please, I will work for you if you help us. We need shelter while I repair our vessel. Something about the mother's devotion touched Kathy deeply. She had always wanted children of her own, but never found the right partner. The alien mother looked at her with those strange eyes that somehow conveyed worry and hope. Come inside, Kathy said, gesturing toward her farmhouse. I have food. The alien family followed her, keeping close together. The smallest child stumbled, and Kathy instinctively reached out to steady it. The child's skin felt warm and smooth like sun-heated silk. The touch seemed to surprise. Both of them and the child made a sound like tinkling bells. The mother introduced herself as Lyra. She explained that her people, the Celestians, were peaceful explorers from a planet orbiting a star, many light years from Earth. Their ship had been damaged during a solar flare and they needed time to repair it. We did not intend to land on your world, Lyra said as she accepted a bowl of vegetable soup from Kathy. Our navigation system was compromised. I aimed for an uninhabited area to avoid frightening your people. Kathy smiled. You did pretty well. This farm is about as uninhabited as it gets around here. The children named Eta, Zeta, and Nova watched with curiosity as Kathy showed them how to eat the soup with spoons. They mimicked her actions perfectly, though sometimes using all 4 arms at once, which made Kathy laugh. They seemed to enjoy the sound of her laughter, their eyes widening and their bodies swaying slightly. That night, Kathy set up beds for her unexpected guests in the spare bedroom that once belonged to her parents. The aliens needed less sleep than humans, Lyra explained, but the children were exhausted from their ordeal. Kathy watched as Lyra sang to them in a language that sounded like wind chimes and flowing. Water in the morning, Kathy woke to find Lyra already outside examining her damaged ship parts spread carefully on a tarp I can repair. Most of it, Lyra said when she noticed Kathy approaching. But some components were destroyed. I may need to find substitutes from your technology. Kathy nodded, thinking about who might be able to help. Sam Green, who ran the electronics shop in town, owed her a favor after she helped save his crops last year during the drought. Maybe he could provide some parts, without asking too many questions. As the days passed, Lyra proved to be an incredible worker. Her forearms allowed her to do twice the work of a human. She learned quickly, watching Kathy with those strange, reflective eyes, and soon knew how to feed the animals, tend the vegetables, and even operate the tractor. The alien children played in the fields and helped with simple chores. They learned English at an astonishing rate, often repeating phrases they heard Kathy say. Nova, the youngest, was particularly fond of singing along with the old radio in the kitchen, her voice adding an otherworldly harmony to the country songs. Word spread quickly in the small town. People were curious about the newcomers staying at Kathy's farm. Some drove by slowly, hoping to catch a glimpse of the aliens. Old Mrs. Wilson, who delivered mail, stopped longer than necessary, asking pointed questions about Kathy's strange-looking relatives from out west. Some neighbors were scared, leaving anonymous notes warning Kathy about the dangers of harboring illegal aliens, a misunderstanding that would have been funny under different circumstances. Others were simply curious, like Sam from the electronics shop, who provided parts without much explanation needed after seeing Lyra use all four arms to fix his broken tractor engine in minutes. Most kept their distance, but a few, like old Mrs. Hayes, brought over casseroles and pies, claiming they wanted to see what foods the aliens might like. The children were particularly fond of anything sweet, especially apple pie, which made their skin glow slightly brighter. "We must be careful," Lyra warned one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Not all humans will be as kind as you. Some may fear us or wish to study us." Kathy nodded, knowing Lyra was right. The government would certainly be interested in actual aliens. Some scientists or military personnel might want to take them away for research. She couldn't let that happen. Not to Lyra, who worked so hard. Not to the children who brought so much joy to our lonely farm. "I won't let anyone take you away," Kathy promised. "I know some people in town who can help keep your secret." Sam from the electronics shop agreed to tell others that Lyra and her children were performers from a traveling circus, explaining their unusual appearance. Mary Lou, the town doctor who had come to check on a sick chicken and met Lyra instead, agreed to help if any medical issues arose. For a few weeks, life settled into a new, normal. Kathy and Lyra worked the farm together while the children explored their surroundings with endless curiosity. The ship was slowly being repaired, parts replaced, and systems tested. But their peaceful arrangement couldn't last forever. Government officials came on a Tuesday. Men in dark suits driving black SUVs with government plates. They had received reports of unusual activity and lights in the sky. Someone in town had talked, perhaps seeking a reward, or simply unable to keep such an extraordinary secret. Kathy saw them coming down the long driveway and rushed to warn Lyra. The alien mother quickly gathered her children, and they hid in the cellar beneath the old barn, a place Kathy's grandfather had built during more paranoid times. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Kathy asked, standing on her porch, arms crossed, trying to look casual despite her racing heart. "We're from a special division of the government," a tall man with a buzz cut said, showing her a badge that looked official. "We've had reports of unusual activity on this property. We'd like to ask you some questions." Kathy stood firm on her porch facing the government agents. Her hands were steady, but her heart pounded in her chest. "Just some repairs to my old barn," she said, pointing to where she had actually been helping Lyra work on parts of the ship. "The lights were from my new solar lamps, Agent Daniels." The man with the buzz cut looked skeptical. "We have satellite images of something entering the atmosphere and landing in this area about 3 weeks ago." Kathy shrugged. "I wouldn't know anything about that. Must have been a meteor," she suggested. "Just last month there was that meteor shower the news talked about." The second agent, a woman with sharp eyes named Agent Flores, walked around the property, taking pictures with a specialized camera. Her device made strange beeping sounds as she approached the barn. "We need to search the premises," Agent Daniel said. "It's a matter of national security." Kathy knew her rights as a landowner. They would need a warrant unless she gave permission, which she certainly wouldn't, but arguing might make them more suspicious. She needed to buy time before she could respond. A loud rumble of an engine announced the arrival of a dusty pickup truck. Sam from the electronics shop stepped out, followed by Mayor Susan Clark. And Dr. Mary Lou. Well, look at this, Kathy having a party and didn't invite the whole town. Mayor Susan said with a laugh. She walked right up to Agent Daniels with the confidence of someone used to dealing with officials. The mayor was a tall woman, in her 50s, who had grown up in this county and knew every inch of it. She had also served in the military before returning home to local politics. "What's this about, gentlemen?" she asked in a tone that demanded respect. Agent Daniels explained about the satellite images and strange reports from townsfolk. The mayor listened, nodding seriously. "Well now," she said, when he finished, "that would be our town project. A small experimental drone Sam here has been building for crop monitoring. Hit a bit of trouble on its test flight, didn't it?" Sam nodded, playing along. "It sure did, Mayor. Nearly gave Kathy here a heart attack when it crashed in her tomato patch. Been helping her fix it up these past weeks." The agents looked doubtful, but the mayor's presence complicated things for them. She was well connected with state officials who could make their jobs difficult. Agent Flores returned from her inspection. "My readings show unusual electromagnetic signatures consistent with the satellite data." "That's my fault," Sam jumped in. "Some of the components I'm using are pretty experimental. I'm working with the University on agricultural technology." Dr. Mary Lou, who had remained silent, stepped forward. "I can vouch for Sam and Mayor Clark," she said firmly. "As the town's physician for 30 years, I think I know when something strange is happening. And all that's happening here is neighbors helping neighbors with some fancy farming equipment." The agents conferred quietly. Then Agent Daniels handed Kathy a card. "If you notice anything unusual, please call us immediately. We will be in the area for a few more days." After they drove away, Kathy collapsed onto the porch steps, her legs suddenly weak. "Thank you all," she whispered. Mayor Susan sat beside her. "This isn't over," she warned. "They will be watching. But I bought us some time. I have friends at the state level who can run interference." Kathy looked at her surprised. "Why would you help?" The mayor smiled softly. "My grandmother used to tell stories about lights in the sky and beautiful beings who helped her crops grow during the Dust Bowl when nothing else would survive. I always thought they were just stories until I saw your visitors playing in the field yesterday." Their laughter reminded me of her descriptions. Sam and Dr. Mary Lou nodded. They had their own reasons for helping. Some believed in peaceful coexistence with other beings. Some simply liked Kathy and trusted her judgment. When the coast was clear, Kathy led them to the cellar, where Lyra and her children waited. Lyra stood tall, her pearlescent skin glowing dimly in the darkness. "You have risked much for us," she said to the group. "We are in your debt." That evening they formed a plan. Lyra needed specific materials to complete her repairs, materials that would be difficult to obtain without drawing attention. Sam offered his workshop as a place where they could work more freely, protected from satellite surveillance. By the metal roof, Dr. Mary Lou was fascinated by Celestian biology, and Lyra allowed her to take basic readings. The doctor discovered that while Celestians appeared fragile, their cellular structure was remarkably resilient. They can heal from injuries at an accelerated rate, Mary Lou explained, and their bodies can adapt to different atmospheres and gravity conditions. They are perfect space travelers. Mayor Susan arranged for a small group of trusted townspeople to keep watch for the government agents, creating a phone tree warning system that would alert them if the agents approached either Kathy's farm or Sam's workshop. Lyra taught Kathy about the stars and showed her incredible technologies that could make crops grow faster and healthier. In return, Kathy taught Lyra about human emotions, friendship, and trust. The alien had trouble understanding some concepts. "You humans feel so intensely," Lyra observed one evening as they sat watching the sunset. "My people experience emotions, but not with such depth and complexity. Is that why you travel to study other beings?" Kathy asked. "Partly," Lyra admitted. "We believe diversity strengthens the universe. Each species has something unique to offer. The alien children adapted quickly to life on Earth. They were especially fascinated by the animals on the farm. The chickens confused them greatly, beings that could not fly far despite having wings. The cows amazed them with their size and gentle nature. Ita, the oldest child, spent hours watching butterflies, tracking their movements with her large eyes. She created beautiful drawings of Earth creatures using a strange liquid that changed colors as it dried. Zeta, the middle child, was mechanical like her mother, helping to fix not just the ship but also farm equipment. Her 4 arms made her especially adept at complicated repairs. Nova, the youngest, became Kathy's shadow, following her around the farm, asking endless questions about Earth customs and history. The child was particularly interested in human music and could replicate any song after hearing it once, though the sounds she produced were more like crystal chimes than human vocals. After 2 weeks of careful work, the ship was nearly repaired. Lyra needed just one more component, a specialized power source Sam suggested using modified solar cells combined with some of the crystalline technology Lyra had salvaged from the ship. It might not get you all the way home, he said, but it could get you to your rendezvous point. Lyra had explained that her people had outposts throughout the galaxy, places where damaged ships could be properly repaired and travelers could rest. The nearest one was just beyond Mars, hidden on one of the asteroid belts. As the final repairs neared completion, Kathy felt a heaviness growing in her chest. The farm would be so empty without Lyra and the children. Their presence had brought not just company but purpose to her life. For the first time since her parents died, she felt part of something important. The night before the planned departure, Lyra found Kathy sitting alone on the porch swing. "You have given us so much," Lyra said, joining her. "Your home, your protection, your friendship." Kathy tried to smile. "It's nothing, really. I just did what anyone would do." Lyra made a sound like gentle wind, chimes, her version of laughter. "No, most would not have opened their home to strangers from the stars. You have a rare heart, Kathy Miller." The alien reached into a pouch at her waist and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with an inner blue light. "This is a seed from our world," Lyra explained. "It will grow into a tree that bears fruit that can heal almost any illness. It is our most precious resource." Kathy was stunned. "Why would you give me this?" "Because humans have potential," Lyra said simply. "Our worlds should know each other. You showed kindness when others would have shown fear. This is the beginning of a bridge between our peoples." The crystal felt warm in Kathy's palm, vibrating slightly as if alive. "How do I grow it?" she asked. Lyra explained. The crystal needed to be planted during a full moon in soil, mixed with iron filings and water from a natural source. The resulting tree would grow quickly, reaching maturity in about 5 Earth years. Its fruit would appear first as small glowing pods that would ripen into something similar to Earth peaches, but with healing properties beyond any medicine humans had developed. That night, Kathy could barely sleep. Tomorrow her friends would leave, maybe forever. Though Lyra had promised they would return, Kathy knew space travel was dangerous and the universe was vast. Promises could be made with the best intentions, but still go unfulfilled. Morning came with a gentle rain. Unusual for that time of year. The droplets seemed to shimmer on the ship's surface as if blessing the journey. Lyra and her children stood beside their vessel, ready to depart. The small group of townspeople who had helped them gathered to say goodbye. "I have loaded information about your crops into my ship's database," Lyra told Kathy. "When I return to my people, they will study it. Perhaps we can develop hybrid plants that will help with your worlds." Food challenges. Sam gave Lyra a small device he had built. "It's a specialized radio receiver," he explained. "If you ever come back into Earth orbit, it will help you find this exact location." Dr. Mary Lou hugged each of the children, carefully mindful of their slightly different physiology. "You 3 are the best patients I've ever had," she joked, making them tinkle with laughter. Life returned to normal on the farm, or at least what passed for normal after hosting aliens. Kathy planted the crystal seed that night under the full moon, mixing the soil with iron filings as Lyra had instructed. She used water from the small stream that ran along the edge of her property. The place she chose was special, a small clearing beside the old oak tree where her parents' ashes were scattered. Every morning and evening, Kathy visited the spot. The crystal began to sprout after just 3 days, sending up a thin silver shoot that glowed softly in the dark. Within a week, it was as tall as her knee, the trunk transparent enough to see a blue light pulsing inside like a heartbeat. Delicate branches formed with small leaves that changed color throughout the day, from pale green in the morning to deep blue at night. The government agents returned once more but found nothing suspicious. They seemed satisfied with the mayor's explanation about experimental agricultural drones, especially after Sam showed them some of his actual prototypes. The agents left, but Kathy knew they might be watching from a distance. She was careful to visit the crystal tree only when she was sure no one was around. 2 months after Lyra's departure, something unexpected happened. A university professor named Diane Foster arrived at Kathy's farm. She was a botanist specializing in rare plants and had heard rumors about unusual growth on the property. "I was told you might have some interesting specimens." Diane said. She was a tall woman with gray-streaked auburn hair and intelligent eyes that reminded Kathy of Lyra. Somehow Kathy was immediately suspicious. "Who told you that?" "Mayor Susan sent me," Diane explained, showing an old photo of herself and the mayor in college. "We were roommates. I study plants that might have medicinal properties. She thought I might be helpful." Still cautious, Kathy showed Diane her normal garden, first watching her reactions carefully. The professor was knowledgeable, pointing out interesting aspects of even common vegetables. Finally, Kathy decided to trust her and led her to the crystal tree. Diane gasped when she saw it. "Oh my goodness," she whispered, approaching slowly. "What is this? I have never seen anything like it." Kathy gave her the cover story she had prepared. "It's a rare specimen from overseas. A friend brought the seed back from an expedition." The botanist circled the tree, which now stood waist-high. "Its cellular structure must be extraordinary," she said. "May I take a small sample?" "A leaf, perhaps." Kathy felt protective of the tree. It was her connection to Lyra and the children. But she also recognized that she might need help understanding how to care for it as it grew. "You can study it, but no samples leave the farm," she said firmly. "And nothing gets published without my permission." Diane agreed and began visiting regularly, bringing equipment to analyze the tree without harming it. She discovered that the crystal plant absorbed not just sunlight but other forms of energy as well. It seemed to grow faster during electrical storms, and when placed near running electronics, it's almost as if it feeds on electromagnetic fields. Diane explained excitedly. "This could revolutionize our understanding of plant biology." As the months passed, Kathy allowed Diane to bring in a few trusted colleagues: a chemist who analyzed the sap that occasionally formed on the branches, a physicist who studied the strange energy patterns the tree emitted. They formed a small research group sworn to secrecy, working out of an old barn that Kathy converted into a lab. The tree kept growing faster than any earth plant, reaching 15 feet within its first year. The trunk remained somewhat transparent, with visible blue energy flowing through vein-like channels. The branches spread wide, creating a canopy of leaves that hummed softly in the breeze. As winter approached, Kathy worried the cold might harm it, but Diane discovered the tree generated its own heat, maintaining a constant temperature regardless of the weather word about the strange tree spread. Despite their precautions, curious locals sometimes drove by, hoping to catch a glimpse. More government officials visited, asking questions about experimental agriculture. Kathy and her scientist friends maintained their cover story about developing new drought-resistant plant species. 1 year after Lyra's departure, something even more unexpected happened. A young woman named Laura arrived at the farm, claiming to be from a secret division of NASA. She knew about the Celestians. "I tracked the ship's exit from our atmosphere," she explained, showing Kathy classified data on her tablet. "We have been monitoring certain frequencies since the 1960s, when we first detected their communications. There are others in the government who know about them but keep it secret." Kathy was shocked but also relieved to have someone she could talk to openly about Lyra. Laura became part of their group, helping to establish security measures around the farm and providing equipment that could detect approaching surveillance. By the second year, the crystal tree had become even more remarkable. Small buds appeared on the branches, glowing orbs that pulsed with blue light. Diane and her team were fascinated by their development. These appear to be precursors to fruit or seed pods, the botanist explained. They contain compounds unlike anything we've ever seen. Complex organic structures that seem to reorganize themselves almost like they're alive. Laura was particularly interested in the energy readings from the tree. It seems to be transmitting something, she said one evening, as they all sat in the lab analyzing data. The pattern is similar to what we detected from the Celestian ship, but much weaker. Is it some kind of beacon? Kathy asked, hoping it might be calling Lyra back. Possibly, Laura nodded. Or it could be part of its normal growth cycle, communicating with others of its kind. The third year brought more changes to Kathy's life. The farm was now partly a research station with a small team of scientists working on the crystal tree. They had built a greenhouse around it to protect it from prying eyes. Sam had designed a special material for the walls that blocked most scanning technologies. The tree continued to grow, now standing over 30 feet tall. The glowing buds had developed into small fruit-like pods. About the size of plums, they hung from the branches like ornaments. Their surface was smooth and pearlescent, reminding Kathy of Lyra's skin. When the first pod ripened and fell, Diane carefully collected it. The outer shell was hard, but inside was a soft flesh that glowed blue. It smelled sweet like honey and summer flowers. We should analyze it thoroughly before anyone considers tasting it, the botanist warned. Tests showed the fruit contained compounds that accelerated cellular regeneration. When applied to small cuts or burns, it healed them almost instantly. Applied to dying plant cuttings, it revived them. Within controlled experiments, it cured bacterial and viral infections in lab mice. This could change medicine forever. Diane said, her eyes wide with wonder. We need to understand how to cultivate it, how to reproduce these effects. Kathy remembered Lyra's words that the fruit could heal any illness. She thought of all the people who could be helped. But she also worried. What would humans do with such power? Would they use it wisely? Or would they weaponize it somehow? During the fourth year, something concerning happened. A large pharmaceutical company somehow learned about their research. They offered to buy Kathy's farm for an enormous sum. We understand you have developed something revolutionary. A corporate representative told her, we have the resources to bring this to the world. Kathy refused immediately. She knew what would happen. The company would patent the fruit restrict access charge, prices that many couldn't afford. The gift from the stars would become a luxury for the wealthy. The company did not take her refusal well. Strange men began watching. The farm government officials who had previously lost interest suddenly returned, asking more pointed questions. Kathy suspected the pharmaceutical company had connections in high places. We need to protect the tree, Mayor Susan said during an emergency meeting at the farm. We cannot let them take control of this. The mayor had continued to support their work over the years, using her political connections to deflect unwanted attention. Now she helped them develop a new strategy. We will create a non-profit research foundation, she explained. The entire town will be shareholders. That way no single entity can take control. The tree belongs to everyone. Papers were drawn up, legal protections put in place. The Celestial Horizon Foundation was established with Kathy, Diane, Laura, Sam, Dr. Mary Lou, and Mayor Susan as founding members. Their mission to study the crystal tree and ensure its benefits were shared equally with humanity. As the fifth year approached, Kathy spent more time watching the sky, especially at night. The crystal tree was now fully mature, standing over 50 feet tall, with a wide canopy that glowed softly in the darkness. The fruit it produced was carefully harvested and studied. Treatments were being developed, protocols established for its use. But what Kathy wanted most was to see Lyra and the children again, to show them what their gift had become, to thank them once more. One quiet evening, as she sat beside the tree alone, she noticed something strange. The blue glow within the trunk began to pulse more rapidly. The leaves started to vibrate, creating a soft humming sound that reminded her of Lyra's voice. Kathy stood looking up at the stars through the glowing branches. Was it time? Were they coming back? The ship that descended from the night sky was larger than the one Lyra had crashed in 5 years ago. Its design was similar with the same color-shifting material, but this vessel was sleek and undamaged. It hovered silently above the crystal tree. Bathed in the blue glow from the branches, Kathy stood transfixed, her heart racing. Was it really Lyra returning as promised, or perhaps other Celestians drawn by the tree's signal? She quickly called the members of the Foundation who lived nearby. They had prepared for this moment, creating protocols for first contact or reunion. The ship landed gracefully in the clearing beside the tree. A section of the hull slid open, revealing a tall figure silhouetted against interior light. Kathy recognized. The four-armed form immediately Lyra, she whispered, stepping forward. The Celestian moved into the tree's glow, and Kathy gasped. She looked almost exactly the same, her pearlescent skin shimmering in the blue light. But there was something different about her eyes. They held knowledge and experience that hadn't been there before. I promised we would return. Lyra said, her voice the same musical tone Kathy remembered. We never forget those who help us. 3 more figures emerged from the ship. Kathy had to look twice to recognize them. Eta, Zeta, and Nova had grown considerably. The smallest was now as tall as Kathy herself, while the others stood nearly as tall as their mother. Their features had matured, but they still moved with the same graceful fluidity. Nova rushed forward, all 4 arms extended. Kathy Miller, she sang in her chiming voice. We have returned as promised. Kathy embraced the young Celestian, tears flowing freely. It had been so long, yet the connection remained. Her friends had come back. Mayor Susan arrived first, followed by Diane, Sam, Laura, and the others. They gathered around the ship, awestruck and joyful. Introductions were made, explanations exchanged. Lyra was impressed by how they had cared for the crystal tree. You have tended it well, she said, examining the massive plant. This is the first Lumina tree to grow on Earth. Its beacon called to us across the stars. Lyra explained that she had returned to her home planet after leaving Earth. Her report about humans, and particularly Kathy's kindness, had caused great interest among her people. They had been observing Earth for centuries, but had maintained a policy of non-interference. Now they were reconsidering that stance. The Lumina tree is our gift. She said its fruit can heal, but that is just the beginning. The tree itself is a bridge, a biological transmitter that can connect your world to ours. More ships appeared over the next few days, landing in the fields around Kathy's farm. Each carried Celestian scientists and diplomats eager to meet humans and share knowledge. The crystal tree, or Lumina tree as they called it, continued to pulse with energy, its glow visible for miles. Government officials could no longer ignore the situation. Military vehicles appeared on the roads leading to the farm. But Mayor Susan had prepared for this. She contacted her connections at the state and federal level, explaining the peaceful nature of the Celestian visit. This is not an invasion, she told them firmly. This is first contact, and it is happening on our terms. The Celestial Horizon Foundation became the official liaison between humans and Celestians, its members working closely with government representatives to establish diplomatic protocols. Laura, with her NASA background, was particularly helpful. Navigating the complex political landscape, Lyra and her team brought amazing technologies, devices that could clean polluted water, purify air, and generate clean energy. They offered these freely, asking only for peace and cultural exchange in return. The world reacted with a mixture of fear, wonder, and hope. Religious leaders debated the theological implications of extraterrestrial life. Scientists were ecstatic at the opportunity to learn from an advanced civilization. Ordinary people watched the news with disbelief as images of the beautiful 4-armed aliens appeared on their screens. Kathy found herself at the center of it all. The simple farmer who had shown kindness to strangers had changed human history. She worked tirelessly alongside Lyra, helping people understand that the Celestians came in peace. Nova, who had been so small when they first met, had become a skilled linguist during her time away. She could now speak dozens of human languages, and served as a cultural interpreter between the species. Eta, the artistic one, created beautiful works that combined Celestian and human aesthetic traditions. Her sculptures and paintings helped bridge the gap between the cultures, expressing complex ideas that words could not. Zeta, The technical genius worked with human engineers and scientists developing hybrid technologies that combined the best of both worlds. Her innovations in sustainable energy production would eventually transform Earth's power infrastructure. As weeks passed, more Celestians arrived bringing gifts of knowledge and technology. They established a permanent settlement around the Lumina tree with Kathy's farm as its heart. The Foundation oversaw the gradual introduction of Celestian healing techniques, ensuring they were distributed fairly across all nations and economic levels. The pharmaceutical company that had tried to take control of the tree earlier faced global backlash when their tactics were exposed. They eventually became partners in the Foundation, contributing their distribution networks to help spread the benefits of the Lumina fruit. Not everything was smooth. Many humans feared the aliens, believing they had secret motives. Some religious groups declared them demons. Others saw them as saviors. Neither view was accurate, as Kathy often explained to reporters and officials. They are people, she would say, just like us but different. They have their own hopes, dreams, and flaws. They want what we want: peace, understanding, and a better future for their children. 6 months after the return, a global summit was held at the United Nations. The celestial delegation, led by Lyra, presented their proposal for ongoing relations between the worlds, technology, and knowledge exchange, cultural programs, scientific collaboration, and a joint space exploration initiative. During a break in the proceedings, Kathy found Lyra standing alone, looking out over the New York skyline. "Your world is so vibrant," Lyra said, "so diverse. We have much to learn from each other." Kathy smiled. "You said once that diversity strengthens the universe." Lyra made her chiming laugh. "Yes, and your species adds greatly to that diversity. Your emotions, your creativity, your resilience. These are treasures as valuable as any technology." As they spoke, Nova joined them. She had become particularly close to Kathy in the months since their return, spending hours asking about human customs and sharing stories of her travels. The young Celestian looked excited. "I have news," she said. "My request has been approved. I will be staying on Earth as part of the cultural exchange program." Kathy felt a surge of joy. "You mean you'll be living here?" Nova nodded. "If you will have me, I would like to stay at the farm to learn more about your world. And perhaps," she added softly, "to have a second mother." Tears filled Kathy's eyes. "Nothing would make me happier." The agreement between Earth and the Celestian homeworld was signed the following day, establishing formal diplomatic relations and exchange programs. Humans would travel to the Celestian world, and Celestians would live among humans, learning from each other. Growing together, Kathy returned to her farm, which had been transformed into something new, a place where two worlds met. Several Celestian families had built homes nearby, their elegant structures blending harmoniously with the landscape. Human scientists, educators, and diplomats had also settled in the area, creating a unique community. The Lumina tree continued to grow, and now produced enough fruit to heal thousands. Its seeds, carefully cultivated, were beginning to grow in protected locations around the world. Each new tree would become a connection point between the species, a living bridge across the stars. One evening, a year after the Celestians' return, Kathy sat on her porch swing with Nova beside her. They watched the sunset together, human and alien friends who had become family. "Do you ever regret it?" Nova asked the crash landing. On Earth, Kathy looked surprised. "Why would I regret it? It brought you all into my life." "No," Nova clarified. "I mean, from our perspective. Do you think my mother regrets that our ship malfunctioned?" Kathy thought for a moment. "I think sometimes the universe knows what it's doing. Maybe you were meant to find this farm. Maybe we were meant to find each other." Nova considered this, her large eyes reflecting the golden light of sunset. "A beautiful thought," she said. "My people have a similar concept. The pattern of stars. We believe that connections form across time and space for a purpose. Though we cannot see the full design, we trust in its wisdom." They sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, Celestians and humans were traveling together, exploring the cosmos, learning from one another. The boundaries between their worlds growing fainter with each passing day. Kathy thought about how it had all begun. A crashed ship, a desperate mother, an act of kindness. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin with the smallest choices. She had offered food to hungry children and work to their mother, never imagining where that simple decision would lead. The light from the Lumina tree began to glow stronger as darkness fell, its branches swaying gently in the evening breeze. Nova hummed a Celestian melody beside her, the sound blending with the chirping of crickets and the distant laughter of children, both human and alien, playing in the fields. 10 years had passed since the Celestians first arrived on Earth. The small community around Kathy's farm had grown into a thriving settlement, now officially named Harmony. The original Lumina tree stood at its center, towering over 100 feet, tall with a massive canopy that glowed blue at night. Young Lumina trees grew in protected areas around the world, each one a connection point between humans and Celestians. Kathy, now 50 years old, had become an important diplomat traveling between Earth and the Celestian homeworld. Nova lived with her permanently, while Lyra divided her time between the worlds, coordinating the growing exchange programs. Ida and Zeta had their own roles, Ida as a cultural ambassador and Zeta as head of the Joint Technological Development Initiative. On this particular morning, Kathy stood in her kitchen making breakfast. The house had been expanded over the years to accommodate both human and Celestian visitors. Nova sat at the table reading news reports. On a transparent tablet, a gift from her people. Important message from Mother, Nova said, looking up. She will be arriving today with the new diplomatic team. Kathy smiled. It had been 3 months since Lyra last visited. Always busy, that one, she said, affectionately mixing pancake batter. Did she say what time? Nova shook her head. Making her usual dramatic entrance, I assume the young Celestian had adopted many human expressions over the years, blending them with her own cultural mannerisms. She still had 4 arms, but often wore human-style clothing adapted for her physiology. Today she wore jeans and a flowing top with special sleeves. The relationship between Earth and the Celestian homeworld had transformed both societies. Humans had gained advanced medical knowledge, clean energy technology, and faster-than-light communication. Celestians had discovered human art, music, and philosophy, finding emotional depths they had previously only glimpsed. Not all humans welcomed the aliens. Some extremist groups still protested against the presence of off-worlders, preaching fear and separation, but they were a shrinking minority. The benefits of cooperation were too obvious to deny. Global conflicts had decreased as nations united to work with the Celestians. Climate change was being reversed through shared technologies. Food production had increased, eliminating hunger in many regions. The Celestial Horizon Foundation had expanded into a global organization overseeing the fair distribution of alien technology and knowledge. Diane had retired, but still served as an advisor. Sam and Dr. Mary Lou had passed away, but their children continued their work. Mayor Susan, now in her 70s, remained an active board member, using her political skills to maintain the delicate balance between human and Celestian interests. After breakfast, Kathy walked through the settlement, greeting both humans and Celestians who had made Harmony their home. The architecture was a blend of styles, earth materials used with Celestian design principles, creating structures that seemed both familiar and otherworldly. Children of both species played together in parks designed for their different physiologies. Kathy stopped to visit the memorial garden dedicated to those who had helped during those early days. Sam and Mary Lou were honored there, along with others who had contributed to peaceful first contact. Their vision had created this reality. A crowd had gathered at the landing area, excited whispers spreading through the group. A ship was coming, not just any ship, but the diplomatic vessel carrying Lyra and important officials from both worlds. Kathy made her way to the front of the crowd, where she found Ida and Zeta waiting. Ida had become a famous artist, her works displayed in galleries across Earth and on the Celestian homeworld. Today she wore formal attire for the diplomatic reception, her 4 arms adorned with intricate jewelry that caught the light. Zeta was dressed more practically, though still elegantly. Her work in technological development had revolutionized both societies. Most recently, she had helped create the instantaneous communication network that linked Earth with the Celestian system. They are bringing the council elders this time, Ida said quietly. It's unprecedented. Kathy raised an eyebrow. The Celestian Council rarely left their homeworld. Their presence suggested something important was happening. Before she could ask more questions, a hush fell. Over the crowd, a large ship appeared in the sky above them. Unlike the utilitarian vessels used for regular transport, this one was clearly ceremonial, its hull decorated with swirling patterns that shifted color in the sunlight. The ship landed with barely a sound, a testament to Celestian engineering. A platform extended from its side, and Lyra emerged looking regal in flowing robes that complemented her pearlescent skin. Behind her came 6 elderly Celestians, their skin showing a silvery patina that came with great age. They moved with dignity, their forearms making formal gestures of greeting. Following them was a surprise. The Secretary General of the United Nations, along with representatives from major Earth nations. This was no ordinary diplomatic visit. Kathy stepped forward as the official human representative of Harmony. She bowed in the Celestian manner, arms crossed at the chest. "Welcome to Earth. Welcome to Harmony," she said formally. Then, breaking protocol, added with a smile, "Welcome home." Lyra made the chiming sound of Celestian laughter and embraced Kathy in the human way. "We bring news," she said. "Great news." The gathering moved to the community center, a large building beside the original Lumina tree. Humans and Celestians filled the space, sitting together as equals. The council elders took positions at the front alongside the Secretary General. The eldest Celestian stepped forward, her skin almost translucent with age, her eyes holding wisdom gathered across centuries. "For 1,000 of your Earth years we have watched your world." She began, her voice like distant wind chimes. "We saw your struggles, your wars, your triumphs. We debated whether to make contact. Many feared it was too soon, that humans were not ready. Then, Lyra and her children crashed on a small farm." The elder turned to Kathy. "A single act of kindness from one human changed our perspective. You, Kathy Miller, showed us that humanity was ready not for our technology or our knowledge, but for friendship." Across the stars, the Secretary General spoke next. 10 years ago, many on Earth feared the arrival of beings from another world. We wondered about their intentions, their desires. Some prepared for conflict. But what we discovered was something remarkable, a species that sought not conquest but connection, not domination but diversity. Nova squeezed Kathy's hand, excitement visible in her large eyes. They were about to announce something momentous. Lyra stepped forward after both leaders had spoken. "For a decade our worlds have learned from each other, grown together. Today we propose the next step, a formal alliance between Earth and the Celestian worlds, not just diplomatic relations, but a true partnership." The elder continued, "We offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Concordat." A murmur ran through the crowd. The Celestians had mentioned the Concordat before, a loose alliance of spacefaring civilizations that shared knowledge and resources while respecting each member's sovereignty. But they had always said Earth would need decades more development before being considered. "Why now?" Kathy asked, voicing the question everyone was thinking. "You've always said we weren't ready," the Secretary General answered. "Because we have proven ourselves. The Harmony Project has shown that humans and Celestians can not only coexist but thrive together. The principles established here have spread worldwide." True, the elder nodded. "But there is another reason." She gestured toward the Lumina tree visible through the large windows. "The tree you have nurtured has reached full maturity. This happens only when there is true harmony between worlds. When the biological and spiritual connection is complete." Lyra explained further. "The Lumina trees are more than healing plants. They are living connections between civilizations. When a tree reaches maturity as this one has, it signals that both species are ready for deeper bonds." The proposal was extraordinary. Earth would gain access to the Concordat's knowledge database, including the collected wisdom of 12 spacefaring civilizations. Humans would be permitted to travel to Concordat worlds, study at their institutions, and participate in their governance. In return, Earth would share its unique perspectives, its art, culture, and philosophy. What the Celestians valued most about humans was not their technology, but their emotional depth, their creativity, their resilience, qualities the other Concordat species found fascinating. There are challenges, ahead the Secretary General acknowledged. Not all humans will welcome this alliance. Fear and mistrust remain, but the benefits far outweigh the risks. Together we can solve problems that have plagued humanity for centuries: disease, poverty, environmental degradation. The formal signing ceremony took place beneath the Lumina tree, its blue glow illuminating the faces of those gathered. Leaders from Earth and representatives of the Concordat placed their marks on the historic document. As they did, the tree seemed to pulse with increased energy, its light growing stronger. That evening, Kathy sat on her porch with Lyra, Nova, Ida, and Zeta watching the celebration in the distance. Fireworks, both human and celestian, lit up the sky. Music from both worlds blended in harmonious, if sometimes unusual, combinations. "Do you remember that first night," Kathy asked, "when you crashed in my tomato garden?" Lyra made her chiming laugh. "I was so afraid you would reject us, send us away, or worse, call your authorities."